Welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. I'm really blessed to be joined by the Most Reverend Louis Tylka. He is Bishop of the Diocese of Peoria, Illinois, and he is leading the Fulton J. Sheen Foundation as the official promoter of Sheen's cause for canonization. And you must be overjoyed, Your Excellency, at everything that has happened that has led up to now this great celebration that is impending.
Overjoyed is one word. I'm certainly filled with a lot of gratitude and joy knowing that the beatification is going to be taking place very shortly. Overwhelmed is also another word, as we are in the midst of trying to plan the wonderful celebration that will happen in September. I joke around saying that be careful what you pray for. The Lord might actually give it to you. We've been praying for this for quite some time. And we truly, in the deepest part of our heart, desire to see not only the beatification, but one day the canonization of Fulton Sheen. But getting told at the end of January, basically, that we could move forward, and then getting a date in September did not give us a lot of time to do a lot of preparations, especially when we're planning such a grand celebration, inviting 75,000 people to join us for a Mass.
I guess I want to inquire the fact that the Mass is taking place in St. Louis, although it's just a hop, skip, and jump from Peoria.
Right.
Has that been a cause of, say, question, maybe even a little confusion? I wonder if it's even a cause of a little concern, but I doubt that.
Well, no cause of concern. When we first realized that the Holy See was going to grant us the permission to go forward with the beatification, basically, I brought my team together and we began talking about where we might do this. And, we could do it in our cathedral, which would certainly be appropriate because this is the home diocese of Sheen. That's where his tomb is. But of course, our cathedral has a capacity of roughly 850 people. So it would be a very small gathering. And when we look to other places in the area, in the diocese, which is normally where a beatification would take place, we just don't have a facility large enough. And as I said to my team, Sheen, we're very proud because he's our own. He's our native son. But Sheen lived his life, especially as a priest, as a bishop, with his work in media and with the missions. He lived his life for the church around the world. And so in order to share this with the world is where we began to explore what our possibilities were. As you mentioned, St. Louis is a hop, skip, and a jump. It's 2.5 hours from downtown Peoria to downtown St. Louis, and it's a straight shot down Interstate 55. So, quick trip down there, and the fact that the Dome at the Americas Center was available, which we could then have up to 75,000 people join us for the celebration, just seemed like the right move. So once people understood, when we announced that the beatification was going to take place there, once they understood the purpose of sharing Sheen with the world, there's really not been any, angst or worry. And most people understand why we're doing it and are excited because so many folks will be able to be a part of the beatification.
And I think that's been one of the things I've been grateful for, that you and all of the people on your team took the care to think about that while Peoria claims him as their own, he in a lot of ways belongs to the United States. He belongs to the church and the world. I owe him a personal debt of gratitude from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, no less. And so the fact of the matter is, this is a man who has sown seeds and influenced the global church, and therefore, on the Mass of his beatification, we are going to see a representation of the global church showing up for the Mass.
Indeed. I mean, I have learned in my 6 years now serving as a bishop here in the Diocese of Peoria, literally no matter where I go, when I say I am the Bishop of Peoria, it almost always comes back to a conversation about Fulton Sheen. And in my travels over the last 6 years in ministry, as well as just my own personal travels, I've gone to places like Tanzania. And in Tanzania, meeting several of the bishops that I met there on a pastoral visit, they spoke of how Sheen was inspirational to them. In fact, I brought Sheen's book, Priest is Not His Own, to give as a gift to the bishops I was meeting. And one of the bishops said, "Oh, I already read that. I read that when I was a young seminarian." I've had similar experiences in Italy and France, across the United States. So he truly is a global figure and a global voice for the church. And so that just points to me that we do have to maximize people's participation, which is why beyond the 75,000 who will be together with us in the Dome at the Americas in St. Louis, we've been working with media partners so that we can make sure that the Mass will be live streamed and broadcast and put on radio so that literally anybody in the world who's interested can also join in the wonderful celebration of the beatification.
And undoubtedly that interest is going to be vast. I'm just thinking about the fact that, like you mentioned, you go anywhere where there's a hearty Catholic populace that's faithful to the magisterium, and you mentioned Archbishop Fulton Sheen, that name is going to ring some very strong bells.
Mm-hmm.
And so you as the bishop of the Diocese of Peoria, Illinois, in a lot of ways, he remains one of your sons. I mean, he was never quite under you, but because of your see, he remains one
Sure,
of your sons.
sure.
Can you please speak to that heritage from a spiritual father perspective?
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story with that. When we did a pilgrimage about 3 years ago to France with our vocation office, our patroness for vocations is Saint Therese of Lisieux, and Saint John Vianney, of course, the patron saint of parish priests. So we did this pilgrimage, and we were in the town where Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque received the visions of the Sacred Heart. And there was we were there in January, so I was in the back of the room. We were in this very small, cramped room, about 50 of us, and it was cold, so I had my jacket on, and there was a 87-year-old priest who came to give us a talk on Saint Margaret Mary and the Sacred Heart. And at the end of his talk, he was talking with the folks who were seated down in front, and they pointed out that I was there. And he came rushing over to greet me, this 87-year-old priest, and said, "Oh, you are Archbishop Sheen's bishop." And I felt very overwhelmed with that kind of being thrown at me. And I said, well, I think he was a good enough bishop. He didn't need me to be his bishop. But truthfully, as I reflect on my role and my responsibility as a spiritual father, and particularly the spiritual father in the Diocese of Peoria, I look around the local church here and I see the roots of faith that were nourished in Fulton Sheen when he was a young boy, a young man living here in north central Illinois. They're the same values. It's the same faith and commitment that people are living out that faith today. Recognizing that this is so important for our local church, the church in the United States, the church around the world. As a father, I want to make sure that the celebration is worthy of Fulton Sheen. It's worthy of the church, and is an opportunity for all of us to encounter the Lord. It's all about the Lord. It's all about our relationship with Jesus. And Sheen just points to us so many ways in which we encounter the Lord. And so, as a father, I want to bring that experience to as many people and to share that experience so that people can encounter Jesus and have their life transformed as my life has been and as Sheen's life was transformed because of the encounter with the Lord.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I am blessed to be talking with Bishop Louis Tylka. Bishop Louis Tylka is the Bishop of the Diocese of Peoria in Illinois, and he was inaugurated in 2022. This is after 19 months of serving as coadjutor bishop there. And this is, of course, in that great interim of the preparation for the beatification and of Archbishop Fulton Sheen. So he's been overseeing that entire process and been one of its strongest proponents. We continue to pray for his work, and we're going to continue on the other side of the break. But one of the things I want to draw to your attention to is that we need to pay attention to the amount of care, the amount of prayer, the amount of discernment that went into this process. And as Bishop Louis Tylka has been telling us, he was certain that Sheen was going to be beatified, and it was only a matter of when the Holy Spirit would clear that path, and that path needed to be cleared with tremendous precision. We're going to continue on the other side of the break. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter. afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. It's no secret to all of us, Fulton Sheen is about to be beatified. And we have been blessed to have had conversations with Monsignor Jason Gray and now Bishop Louis Tylka. This is our attempt at getting an inside look of the entire process that has led up to this. And Bishop Tylka is Bishop of Peoria. He's also the man that is the primary charge behind the beatification of Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen. And he has been diving with us into what this historic moment is looking like and the entire journey that we took to get here. But perhaps more importantly, one of the questions that we are going to keep going back to is, why does Fulton Sheen and his beatification matter for the sake of the church? And the recognition of the miracle that took place in the beatification mass, Bishop Louis Tylka sincerely believes that this is the result of God's timing. I love that you're speaking about your role as a spiritual father, because I dare say, beyond all other things, that is what you are to the children in your care, the spiritual children in your care. As the Episcopal priest, you oversee quite literally the spiritual needs of all those in your care. Now, I say that as a preface to looking back at this entire journey into Fulton Sheen being beatified. I mean, Your Excellency, this has been a tumultuous journey. I know you've been at the forefront of the dialogue and the meetings and the discussions. I can't imagine any of that was either easy or not exhausting. But you also then had to deal with the tremendous amount of disappointment that was permeating your diocese. I wonder if you could speak to that and just the kind of stalwart hopefulness that you helped instill in them.
Sure. So I was named a bishop in 2020, and the original date of the beatification was to take place in December of 2019. So when I came into the diocese in the middle of the summer of 2020, which was also COVID, so it was an interesting time to become a bishop and all, the disappointment was palpable. People were saddened that the beatification had been put on hold. They felt that, there had been so much ups and downs in advancing the cause, and the challenges that were faced in where his body should ultimately rest. So I walked into a situation where the local church in particular was kind of disheartened. And I simply said from the start, I believe Fulton Sheen's a saint. We're just trying to catch up. And I think, in time, this will move forward. I never doubted it. And I want to be very clear. In my first encounters with other bishops, including Cardinal Dolan, Bishop Montano, there's never been a bishop who has spoken against the cause. There was concern in 2019, in particular, because of the statute of limitations on a look back in the state of New York. There was just concern that, perhaps there might be something in the way Sheen might have acted as a bishop dealing with a priest who may have been accused. There was just concern. And so it wasn't the opportune moment. And that's the word that has been consistent in conversations ever since I came to the diocese and took up the cause. When is this opportune for the church, right? And I've never wavered from my belief that at some point we would move forward. Now I look at the moment, and I don't try to dwell on the controversies and challenges of the past. I look at this moment and I say, God says this is the opportune moment, right? We are going to celebrate the beatification of America's bishop, one of the greatest voices of the 20th century in the United States and the world, speaking of the Catholic faith. We're doing it during the 250th anniversary of our country. We're doing it in our extended anniversary, 150th anniversary of our diocese. It's opportune now for us. And it's opportune in that, in 2019, the beatification was going to take place in our cathedral with a very small number of people. It's more opportune to bring 75,000 people in the world to the Dome at the America Centers to celebrate this, historic moment of grace in the life of the church. So I just look around and I say, this is opportune. And the Lord is saying, now is the moment. And so let's celebrate it.
And the Lord truly is saying that. And I believe as soon as the announcement was made burden lifted off the shoulders of many of us who are just
Hmm.
waiting, praying,
Hmm.
fasting, waiting. And thereby, I want to ask you to share your hopeful anticipation, your
Hmm.
eagerness, and what you've also seen on the ground in Peoria in your spiritual children, in how joyous they are that this is moving forward.
Well, folks have been anxious as soon as we were able to announce, and we wanted to get the announcement out as quickly as possible. Once we had an official announcement, there was a little bit of jumping the gun by some media outlets, because of leaks and stuff. But once I finally had the official word, I said, as soon as I get it, we're going to make the announcement that we're doing this. Even though at that point we didn't know where we were going to do it, we didn't know the date. We just wanted the world to know that this was going to move forward because so many people were anxiously waiting for that news. So, once that came out, I mean, it's just been an amazing experience of grace because so many people locally and far beyond have just kind of come out of the woodwork to say, how can I help? Is there something I can do? We have so many folks locally in our church wanting to be a part of this. We are have so many folks asking, how can I be present for this? We planned the beatification to both, number one, celebrate the beatification. The Mass is the most important thing we're doing. And yes, that's happening in St. Louis, but we've also said we want to showcase and bring people to Peoria so that people can see the local church that he grew up in and that he was a part of, that he was ordained a priest for, right? So our novena of holy hours to prepare us for the beatification, our significant moments that we'll celebrate and pray well leading up to, and then coming back the day after with masses of Thanksgiving, and we're going to have several parishes host talks on Sheen's life and legacy. We're going to have our inaugural Sheen Awards to recognize individuals today carrying out that legacy in the similar fashion to what Sheen did. I mean, all of this, we've had so many local people saying, how can we participate? How can we help bring Sheen to share Sheen with the world as we're going forward? And it's going to be a great moment for our local church, but I think it's also going to be a tremendous moment for everyone who is tuning in and watching or coming just to see this one individual who so heroically lived out our faith and witnessed his faith in Jesus.
Heroically is the key word, and I think that highlights how one individual impacted so many. I I would be remiss if I didn't also bring up, Your Excellency, the fact that we are in the semi-quincentennial
Hmm.
of celebration of the Declaration of Independence, and we are in the year of the reign of the first American pontiff.
Hmm.
In moving forward, Sheen's beatification into canonization, what as you as a spiritual father, what do you think our Lord is trying to say to us, the church and the faithful, and even the general populace here in the United
Hmm.
States of America?
Yeah, I think when you look at Sheen's life, and I would never claim to be a subject matter expert on Fulton Sheen. My own interest and devotion and encounter of Sheen has really been since I became a bishop. I'm not of the generation of priests that were studying or reading Sheen in the seminary. I was ordained 30 years ago, Uh, so I have been discovering the wealth of wisdom, the depth of faith, and the voice that challenges us to live a life worth living in Fulton Sheen over the last 6 years. And what I've discovered as I continue to read or to listen or to encounter through stories from people who share with me their own encounters with Fulton Sheen, what I am amazed at is that what he says to us today is as what he said, when he said it 50, 60 years ago is as valid to us today and the questions and challenges we face. Sheen spoke out about the challenges of his day, and he would be doing the same today if he were on a podcast or, had a TV show or a radio show. I mean, what he is saying is true today because it's the truth of the gospel. And I think what Pope Leo is doing for us, I think what Fulton Sheen did for his day and continues to do in our day, what we are all called to do as disciples of Jesus, is to stand up for the gospel, to speak out the gospel, to stand up for the dignity and sanctity of life, to challenge the systems that are in place that devalue one another. We need to speak out against the ills of our society. And we do so in a similar way that Sheen did, which was with charity, with love, with humor, and with conviction. And that's all centered in the gospel and our relationship with Jesus.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I've been talking with Bishop Louis Tylka. He's Bishop of Peoria, frankly, the man who is the strongest driving force behind the beatification of Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen. Without a doubt, one of the most, if not the most, influential Catholic media figure in terms of international evangelization. And he stands there alongside Mother Angelica and a few other names that we all know and love so well. And so we continue to pray for the beatification and eventual canonization of Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen, and thank the Lord for the impact he's had, most probably on your life as you're listening. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.